Okay, hello everybody. So today I have an experiment for you on weathering and erosion. So let's get started. So just to review a little bit about the previous lesson I gave on weathering and erosion, the size and shape of landforms can change over time because of weathering and erosion. Weathering breaks off tiny pieces of rock and erosion carries those pieces to new places. This process of weathering and erosion can take many, many years. For today's experiment, we are going to simulate the process of weathering and erosion. Simulate means we're not going to see real weathering and erosion, but we're going to use things that look just like it. And today we're going to see how landforms can change because of weathering and erosion. So some materials you guys will need if you want to do the experiment with me. You're going to need at least 2 sugar cubes, 1 plastic cup or container with a lid, a handful of rocks, pebbles, or marbles. I find that it works best with rocks. You're going to need paper and you're going to need a pencil. So during this experiment, I want you to write down your observations. So I want you to write down what you see happening during the experiment. So you're going to fill in and lay out your paper like I have shown here, if you can see my mouse. You're going to write this on your piece of paper. So go ahead and pause the video and take time to write this down. You're going to write down, what did the sugar cube look like before the experiment? And you're going to put your answer here. Next question, what did the sugar cube look like after the experiment? And then you're going to put your answer here. Third question, how does weathering and erosion change landforms? And then your last answer is going to go here. So go ahead and pause the video and take a few moments to write this down on your piece of paper. Once you have this written down, we're going to go ahead and jump right into the experiment. And again, during the experiment, I want you to answer these questions, okay? Okay, let's jump right into this experiment. So to begin, I have my container. I have my little marbles, and I have my sugar cubes. So to begin, let's look at the sugar cube. It's a pretty perfect cube, not much denting or anything on the outer sides of it. And so for this experiment, let's remember that the sugar cubes are going to resemble landforms, and the marbles or rocks, if you're using rocks, are going to act as the erosion and weathering. So we're gonna put the lid on, make sure it's nice and tight. Take these out and see how they changed. Okay. So remember we talked about erosion and weathering breaks off little pieces of rock. So if you can see here, this is our sugar cube now. It is not really a cube anymore, it's more round because pieces on the outside have broken off or weathered and eroded. So this is what we started with, more of a cube, and this is what we have now. See the difference? So that's how weathering and erosion works. Over time, sometimes it takes many years, but over time, little bits and pieces break off of landforms and changes the shape, just like we did here. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we saw during the experiment. So as you guys were watching this video, I asked you guys to write down what you saw happening, and I wanted you to answer these questions. So let's go ahead and start with what you guys might have put. So for the first question, what did the sugar cube look like before the experiment? So before the experiment, my observations were that the sugar cube was square, it had straight edges, sharp corners, and it overall looked like a perfect cube. What did the sugar cube look like after the experiment? So after the experiment, the shape was different. It was a little bit more round. You could tell pieces had been broken off, and it overall looked smaller. Whereas before the experiment, the sugar cube was bigger, it had straight edges, sharp corners, and so on and so forth. Third question, how does weathering and erosion change landforms? So from this experiment, we saw that a landform can start looking a certain way, and then after weathering and erosion occurs, the shape can be different, the size can be different, pieces can break off. So that's what we learned during this experiment. Weathering and erosion change landforms by breaking pieces off and changing its shape and size. And that is the end of today's experiment. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you next time.